Last night I watched the BBC Panorama interview with Victoria Guiffre, or Victoria Roberts as she was formerly known, and we heard the sordid stories about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and the accusations against Prince Andrew. Well, who is telling the truth? I don't know, and we cannot conduct a trial by social media. But what struck me the most from this hour-long interview was the simple fact that child sex trafficking was conducted over several years, with so many people being either directly involved by association, or bystanders. So with so many people being witness to this child sex abuse, I want to talk about why nobody did anything to protect these young girls sooner. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'm Sue Blackhurst, and I put social psychology into everyday language. So if people fascinate you and you love learning about human behaviour, then why not subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my weekly videos, because you never know, I might be talking about something that you do next week. So if you knew beyond doubt that a child was being abused, would you do or say anything to stop it, even if it posed a risk to your own personal circumstances? Now, the majority of people would say that if they were able to recognise sexual abusive behaviour in children, they would like to think that they would speak up and intervene, as no one would want to believe that they would allow such harmful behaviour to continue. And yet, the sad truth is that millions of children have unwanted or abusive sexual experience, and they all believe that someone who knew the abuser knew exactly what was going on but did little or nothing to protect them. So what I find incredibly sad is that the abused often say that they felt more anger towards the adult who didn't speak up than towards the person who actually hurt them. So why do those who could protect and stop the abuse remain silent and do nothing, even when the evidence is right in front of them? Now, as difficult as it may be to accept, there are genuine psychological theories and identified reasons why normal, loving and caring adults ignore what is often right in front of their eyes, leading them to take no action at all when their gut instinct tells them to intervene. But these same adults then openly admit that deep down they knew what was going on all the time once a case is brought to trial. In 2018, it was reported that an air traffic controller saw Jeffrey Epstein getting off his private plane in the US Virgin Islands with girls who appeared to be about 11 or 12 years old, and on at least one other occasion with girls who appeared to be between 16 and 18 years old. But the air traffic controller only told investigators about Epstein's travelling with underage girls in 2019, which was a week after Epstein was arrested at a New Jersey airport on child sex trafficking charges. So whilst I was watching the BBC Panorama interview, they were talking to a maintenance man who worked in the area. Now, he admitted that he saw 3 to 4 young girls visiting Epstein's house every day. And in his words, he said he knew what was going on. In fact, he said the whole street knew what was going on. Which leads me to question, why could a community of adults allow this to continue? Well, in 1965, there was a 20-year-old girl called Kitty Genovese, and she was coming home from work when she was attacked next to a tall apartment block. Now, she shouted out, and although residents heard her cries for help, only one person responded. The attacker stabbed her to death. Now, this case led to the psychological phenomenon called the Bystander Effect. Well, the Bystander Effect relates to a number of people who are observing a situation where someone needs help. This help doesn't need to be distress. It could be carrying heavy boxes upstairs. But what it relates to is the size of the group observing the event, because the larger the group, the less likely it is that anyone will take action. However, if there are only 1 or 2 people watching the event, they are more likely to offer a helping hand. So in the case of Kitty Genovese, it was reported that there were 38 witness statements, and yet not one person went to her rescue. So this is where the theory claims that if there had only been one or two people hearing her cries, then there would have been a greater chance of somebody going to offer her some help. Now, I am not stating or claiming that anybody watching this would turn a blind eye to any form of abuse if they were surrounded by others. But what I am saying is that we behave in ways that totally contradict what we truly believe in, or believe that we would do when faced with a certain situation. Now, I have put links to the Bystander Effect in the description box. Do have a look, because there's some video samples there of actually how it works, which I think are going to be really helpful. So let me try and explain how the bystander effect occurs. Now, the first thing is where everyone is convinced that somebody else will do something, creating what is known as a diffusion of responsibility. Now, as this responsibility is divided amongst the number of people present, the more people observing the event, the less responsibility each one of them becomes accountable for, to the point at which no one believes that it's actually their job to do anything. So the larger the group, the more likely it is that everyone will look to everybody else for clues about what to do. But when people observe others doing nothing, it is translated into something like, it's obviously not appropriate for me to say and do anything. Now, in addition to this, there is also the fear of victimization, because this is where people avoid conflict because of the dread that they'll be personally attacked if they offer some help. Many of us may have heard the expression, mind your own business, but this results in people becoming a little more reluctant to accuse somebody else of something, especially about something as charged as sexual abuse, unless they have solid proof. People will also create their own socially acceptable reasons for not taking action, such as, I didn't do anything because I thought they were just playing, or they just looked overprotective. They will make excuses why they believe no intervention was necessary, or I just didn't think there was a problem. And we then have that huge inner voice of self-doubt that says to us, what if I'm wrong? What if it's none of my business? Can you imagine accusing a family friend or neighbour of child abuse only to have totally misjudged the situation? Because fear of almost surely ruining a friendship or a relationship and of possibly hurting an innocent person's reputation over something that may not be true can often outweigh the intention to act protectively on a mere suspicion. But you then have, what if I'm right? And this is the fear that you may cause the breakup of a family through the intervention of child protective services and the devastating lifelong legal case. And you have the consequences making some people feel that it's far better to leave it alone and simply walk away. Now, many of us like to think that human beings are basically good, kind and generous and will stand up for others in trouble, that they'll help victims when they see harmful and illegal behaviour right in front of their eyes. So while any or all of these reasons might be real or even legitimate roadblocks to protecting a child, none of them free adults from the responsibility of doing everything within their power to keep children safe and help them heal from the harm that they have already suffered. The idea that children are being abused while so many are turning a blind eye, or worse, helping to support its continuation by not taking a stand to speak up or fight against it, reveals a very big problem that we can no longer ignore. The case of Jimmy Savile, a household name associated with children, sent shockwaves throughout the whole of the UK, if not wider, not only due to the extent of the abuse he put on those who trusted him, but the fact that so many people revealed that they knew exactly what was going on and they did absolutely nothing about it. So with the case of Jeffrey Epstein and the trafficking of young girls for sex, he certainly died a very guilty man. But for me, there are now far too many inconsistencies in the statements of those left behind that I question whether there are powers much greater than the reporters and investigators working behind the scenes to ensure that the names of those involved and the versions that we see are the only ones that they want us to know. Because I do suspect that some people are being silenced while others are being used as scapegoats. As Victoria Giuffre said herself, there's only one of us telling the truth. Now, I have watched both Prince Andrew and Victoria Giuffre, and do I think one of them is telling the truth? Well, yes, I do. But do I think that that person is telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Well, on that case, the jury is certainly still out. So thank you so much again for watching my video this week, a delicate subject. But before you go, if you found my video interesting, please do subscribe and do share it. And remember, I love hearing your points of view, so let me know your thoughts on what I've been talking about in the comments box below.